Hey, what's up, everyone? If you're watching, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to yours truly, DPron215. I'd appreciate that. So for this video, talking about pro wrestling, however, instead of me talking about a match like I normally do, doing a prediction of a match or a review of a match, I'm going to talk about a recent happening and give my 2 cents on it. So if you follow New Japan Pro Wrestling, you may be aware of the fact that Will Ospreay was recently injured during the New Japan Cup 2023, which is why he had to pull out of the New Japan Cup. The injury occurred in a match against his fellow stablemate of the United Empire at one half of Aussie Open. Aussie, oi, oi, oi. Now back to what I'm talking about. Mark Davis, that was his opponent. During the match, Davis had Ospreay wrapped up in the mat, and when he went to jump on the Ospreay, unfortunately, he couldn't really spot where Ospreay was. So when he landed on him, he wound up injuring Ospreay's arm. I think it was his shoulder. And as a result, as I mentioned, Ospreay had to pull out of the New Japan Cup. So recently, Ospreay, he made a video on his Twitter. I'll link the video in the description so you can watch it and see exactly what he had to say himself. But I'll give the gist of that video and pretty much how that video, what that made me think about. So a couple key points were, one, he's getting older and he feels as though he's deteriorating in front of our eyes. To me, that's a bit concerning. This whole thing is a bit concerning, but that's concerning to me because Ospreay is going to be 30 in a month. I know we live in an era where like pretty much everything above the age of 25 is considered senior citizen. I obviously do not subscribe to that method of thinking, but with that being said, I'm like, wow, like he's only going to be 30. So yikes, you know what I mean? Aside from that, he said he can't do a lot of the moves he used to do when he was younger, in his early 20s. One move in particular he mentioned was the shooting star press. He just doesn't feel as though he could do that safely anymore, so he'll cut that from his moveset. And throughout all of it, like the one thing that really stood out to me the most was the fact he took accountability for his injuries and how he's racked them up over the years due to the wrestling style that he chose to do. So that was pretty telling, and this actually came up before. It's not the first time Will Ospreay said it, but when he said those things in the video, I thought back to two particular spots, two pretty gruesome spots in his career, at least within my opinion. One of which was at Sakura Genesis 2018. It was the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship match, Ospreay versus Marty Scurll. Marty Scurll was the champion at the time, I believe, and Ospreay, during the match, he went to hit what appeared to be a Spanish fly on Marty Scurll from the apron to the floor. However, it didn't really go as planned. Scurll completed his rotation. He landed on the floor. However, Ospreay, when he went to do his portion, you know, the backflip, his head and neck went one way and the rest of his body came like kind of crumpling down on top of him. And the camera angle, yeah, I mean, the internet's there. You can look it up. You can look at it yourself, but that was incredibly gruesome. They went on to finish the match. Ospreay, I mean, he finished the match with an Os cutter. So you remember when the Os cutter used to be a finisher? Wow, time really flies, doesn't it? But yeah, that was a pretty gruesome spot. And if it were up to me, I probably would have stopped the match because they finished it. But yeah, man, that just wasn't, that didn't look good. There's no way that was really good in the long run, at least in my opinion, just looking at it like that. And then another spot was during a match against Shingo Takagi. This is when Ospreay was the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, and this match pretty much is what led to him having to relinquish and vacate the championship. So during the match, Shingo, he hit his finisher on Ospreay. Now, if you know Shingo's finisher, by default, it's just a bit dangerous because you land on your neck and shoulders. Shingo's a pretty safe wrestler though, fortunately, so he's not like hurting people left and right with the move, but it is inherently dangerous, right? So to exacerbate an already inherently dangerous move, again, Shingo's pretty safe, but you have to add in the fact that Ospreay, up until this point, already has a number of injuries. I mean, pro wrestling is physical, so like that's going to happen, or it can happen. It's a bit inevitable. But the head, neck, shoulder, arm injuries, all this, that, and third. You know, for him to go through all of that, not only to take the move, but to take the move off the apron, not just from the apron to the floor, but from the apron through a Japanese table to the floor. Now, if you follow any Japanese pro wrestling, you know those tables are like We Are the Table, I Am the Table. Those are not regular tables. It takes like a stupendous amount of force to put someone through one of those tables. So yeah, they did the spot. The spot looked like it didn't look really bad. Like it wasn't like, oh wow, but it was like still a bit like crunchy. And wow, that's a pretty gruesome way to describe that spot, at least in my opinion. But yeah, that led to Osprey. He wound up getting injured in that match, and he had to vacate the championship. So I think about all of it, man. And one other thing Osprey mentioned in the video is like, he passed his wellness check and he was medically cleared to wrestle again. So he said he was able to move his arm, but he hasn't got a good amount of range back in it, or strength rather, and he doesn't know how much longer he'll be wrestling. So if he continues with the style, he just doesn't know how much time he has left, or just doesn't know how long he'll be wrestling in general. He mentioned that he didn't think he'd be wrestling this long, so I guess that's good. And Osprey did recently defeat Bobby Fish to become the new 1PW heavyweight champion. So I guess he is, recovering and moving in a better direction. But ultimately, man, my 2 cents on this whole thing, I just don't want Osprey to become the next Dynamite Kid. Like we saw how that ended up. If you're unfamiliar, the internet is there. That's how I found out, because I wasn't really there when all that happened like that. But I went on the internet and, saw like Dynamite Kid, like how great he was in the ring and the tolls that his style took on him over time. And like, his health declined rapidly, and a lot of it had to do with how he wrestled in the ring. And I mean, regardless of how you feel about these people personally, I don't know these people personally at all, so I'm not doing it for their attention or anything like that, just giving my 2 cents on it. I don't want to see that happen again, because that's pretty gruesome. It's just sad, really. So I say all that to say this. I hope Osprey, whatever he decides to do, if he wants to keep wrestling this style, or if he changes his style, for a more grappling based, mat based, not as high flying style. Whatever he decides to do, I hope he's happy with it, and I just hope he doesn't wind up like, in a wheelchair by the time he's 40, or if not earlier, you know what I mean? So, yeah, man, so that's my whole take on this whole situation. Everything seems to be catching up to Will, and hopefully he can catch it before it becomes like completely irreversible, and just he takes like a nosedive from a health perspective. So that's pretty much how I feel about this whole situation. What do you think about this whole situation? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And we'll see what it's hitting for, and hopefully Will, if he decides to retire from pro wrestling, it will be on his terms and not being forced out due to stress on his body and health and stuff like that. So that's how I feel. That's enough of me talking. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to yours truly, DPrime215. And we'll see what it's hitting for. And I need to see Osprey versus Omega 3, preferably at All In London. I just had to leave with that. So, till next time, all right? Peace.